Well, hello there. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Bleeding Crimson. We're going to talk a lot about college football on this site and a few other things from time to time. But glad to have you. As you might be already aware from the title, we're going to talk a lot about Alabama Crimson Tide football and how we got to be who we are and why we support them. And first of all, let me tell you how our title came about. I spent about a decade exiled in East Tennessee back in the 90s. And at one point, I was talking to a dyed-in-the-wool Tennessee fan, and he looked me in the eye and said, "You know, I have to tell you, I bleed orange." And I looked him back in the eye and I said, "You know, I have to tell you, no, you don't. You bleed crimson just like I do, just like everybody else does." So that's how the title came about, and we can pretty much back up our statement about who bleeds what. As far as how I became an Alabama fan, it started in a cheap 3-bedroom home in Demopolis, Alabama in 1960, the fall of 1960. I was trying to get something to put me to sleep late one night on a Saturday and landed in my little red radio to this incredible crowd noise going on over something that they were very excited about. And there were two guys more excited than the rest of the crowd talking about the Go team and the White team and the Chinese Bandits. I had no idea what they were talking about. I did not go to sleep very quickly. I kept trying to figure out what it was. And it was the tail end of the Paul Dietzel years at LSU. And the excitement captured me to a point that I wanted more of that. I had no idea where Baton Rouge, Louisiana was or what a Bengal tiger meant to football, but I needed more of that. And lo and behold, about 9 months later, our family moved from that little house in Demopolis, Alabama, to one very similar in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So at that point, my fate was sealed. And in the fall of that year, it was sealed even more when my dad arranged to get tickets from a great Alabama alumnus named Bruce Jones. His wife worked in the office with my dad, and she found a couple of tickets for homecoming of that year against Mississippi State. And so he and I went to that game. And I was done when I walked through the gate and through the portal and actually saw all that green on the football field. And at the time, 43,000 people decked out in their colors, roaring like crazy. And while we were still standing there taking it all in, the band started playing and the players ran on the field. And I was done, still am, and I haven't been to a game in many, many years, but I still get that feeling when I watch them run onto the field or just see one of those crimson jerseys. So that's how we came about. The three things most I remember about that day: number one was watching that team run on the field. Number two was that a defensive lineman for Alabama named Tommy Brooker, who we had watched play high school ball the year before in Tuscaloosa, in Demopolis, he blocked a field goal and ran it as far back as he could before he was caught by somebody faster than him. And from that point on in the game, we didn't hear any more cowbells. And if you're familiar with the SEC, you know what cowbells mean, and you know who they come from, and you know how great it sounds when they finally shut up, unless you happen to be a Bulldog fan. The other thing I remember about the game was as it got really late in the ball game and it was one-sided. The final score was 24-0. I remember the rains increased. We got wet. Everybody got wet. A lot of people left, and my father kept looking at me and saying, "Hey, you ready to go?" And I decided if the players had to stay there for the whole game, we could too. And I've almost always stuck by that, and when I've gone to a live game, and even when I watch them on TV. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Look around for some more stories about what it's like to be a Southern football fan. Thank you for staying through the show.